Yes, guys, what is happening? Welcome back to Vinny's Talk Show. So today we got an interesting one. It's a bit of an old one, but it don't matter because we react anyway, just giving our opinions. Dylan Postal shares his frustration over Disney Snow White remake. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Piers Morgan video. Let's go.
All right, James, you've got no problem with what Disney are doing. You think this is progressive and inclusive, and all those moaning about it should shut up.
I think you should live in the 1930s, actually, Piers, because that's where you belong, really, listening to what you were just saying then. Also, I'm going to quote Warwick Davis, because he said he finds it patronising when people are offended on his behalf. Mm-hmm. And you've just spent a 5-minute monologue being offended on his behalf. Mm-hmm. And I think that's ridiculous.
Well, let me bring in Dylan, because Dylan is also offended, and he happens to be a dwarf actor. Dylan, I've got to say, I was very curious when I saw what Peter Dinklage came out and said, because I did wonder who appointed him the head of the dwarf actor community. And it turns out nobody did other than him. And the people who it seems to me have really suffered in all this are the 6 dwarf actors who would have expected to have roles in this remake in a massive Hollywood blockbuster, who are now not going to have that experience, or the money, or the fame that may have come with that. What is your response to that?
So it's not a progression at all to me. My issue with it is exactly what you said. There are actors, dwarf actors, that live, that dream to be in a major motion picture such as this Disney remake. And now, because Peter Dinklage said what he said last year, now it's taken away. And it's taken away because of quote-unquote progression and all that. And it's not right, because these are roles made for actors of my stature, roles that aren't ever really given. I can't go out for the Harrison Ford or the George Clooney roles, because that's not for me. These dwarf roles are for people of my stature.
Right.
And now it's taken away. I don't feel that's right. And not only that, but now think about the additional stunt actors or body doubles or that. Now you're talking multiple actors of my stature that don't get these major roles. And why? What's the reasoning?
Yeah, he makes a few good points there. Like he said, why should dwarfs have to lose opportunities that they've dreamed about making and just lose jobs anyway? I imagine there's not many films out there with dwarf roles. There's quite a few, but I'd imagine there's not actually that many. So the fact that there's such a big franchise being obviously Disney's Snow White, which is massive, everyone knows about it, and the fact that for progression and fairness and equality, whatever, dwarves have had their jobs taken away from them for some bullshit reason. For them to add probably maybe a black man, a gay man, a normal sized man, and maybe a 5-foot guy, a 4-foot guy. It don't make any sense to me. Don't make any sense to Piers or the other guy either. And yeah, it's just a lot of bullshit, man. I also think that it will actually have a big impact on the film. It will definitely have a big impact on the film. That the fact that they're not actually dwarfs, they're normal sized people. I don't think people will like that. So yeah,
it's supposed to be progressive, and we're supposed to just not view them as that.
Well, you know the
these
irony.
Were heroes. Of these dwarves, all of these dwarves took care of Snow White.
Right.
They all had characteristics, separate characteristics. They weren't these cave-dwelling monsters that people speak of. They all had 7 different characteristics for 7 different actors that from my community, and I don't feel it's right that got taken away from us.
And utterly agree with you. And the irony is that they profess, these progressives, to want to do this to protect you, right? They protect dwarf actors from being, somehow smeared. But you don't feel that way at all.
Peter Dinklage spoke up about this, and that was my issue. He had in the past no issue cashing checks that were made for dwarf roles like Elf and all of that.
Yeah, true. I mean, don't get me wrong, Peter Dinklage is an amazing actor, quality in Game of Thrones and a lot of other things he's done. And yeah, like this guy said, he weren't moaning when he were getting them paychecks for the roles that were actually made for dwarfs. You know, he weren't moaning, he weren't saying out then. But when it's not to do with him, and all these other dwarfs are missing out on opportunities, it's fucked up.
Yes, he blew away the barriers when he did his roles that weren't necessarily made for a dwarf. But the elf role was made for a dwarf. That check cleared just fine. So now that he's gone and done that, the progression of dwarf actors, it doesn't sit right with me.
No,
that this guy who is exactly what you said, what gave him the voice for all of our community?
Yeah,
why?
I was honest. I think
a complete hypocrite. Let me bring James back in. So
when
James,
Piers Morgan is agreeing with you, I think you need to be concerned. I'll say that for the.
So you're telling the dwarf actor what he should feel.
Having
literally just lectured me about speaking for someone in the dwarf community, Warwick Davis. You now accuse a dwarf actor.
No, it's not what I said. I said that if you're siding with anyone, you've got to worry. Right. What I'd like to say actually is that I kind of mostly agree with what you're saying.
And now sir, that's just taking a pot shot there.
No,
saying,
it is absolutely taking a pot shot. But I do agree with what you're saying. I completely agree with your point of view, and I think that's really important. But I can only speak from my experience, and as a gay man, I know that growing up, I witnessed gay people being villains in movies when I was...
Seven dwarves aren't villains.
And that I think stereotypes are really important to...
What stereotype do you think they represent?
The whole stereotype of the movie is dwarves. So the fact that changing it really is unlogical.
Of Snow White, wouldn't it be better if dwarfs
this isn't a part of this about the stereotype.
Right.
This is about roles that were made for people of my stature that don't have the chance to go out for other roles normally.
But you, James,
so why are we
want to stop Dylan getting a role in a Hollywood film?
As well, like, just put this an example, there's a movie called 7 Years a Slave, obviously about the history of black people and how they were slaves. It's kind of like saying, all right, we don't need a black man to play this role, or we can just get another guy, or a dwarf, or a white guy. It just doesn't make any sense. It's so unlogical, and I don't know what production even thought when they even considered doing this. It shouldn't have even been in conversation. It's just stupid.
To get into an attack on a dwarf.
You don't want a dwarf actor to land the role.
I do, actually.
He's saying that kind of belittling. I don't want to get into it. Argue with a dwarf. Come on, man. Still a human.
Listen, a dwarf can play a dwarf part, but I think it's important to change narratives that don't fit in today's society. And really, narrative? It might be better if dwarves just exist in normal roles everywhere, because they do exist.
What was so bad about the way dwarves are depicted in Snow White? Have I missed something?
Well, listen, I'm not here to talk about...
That's what I'm kind of wondering.
I don't represent Disney, but I'm just saying I think I see their point of view.
What's their point of view? What was so bad about the depiction of the dwarves?
Why are you so upset about a movie changing with the times and moving forward?
Because I think that, honestly, with great respect...
There is real news we could be discussing.
No, but this is real news if you're a dwarf actor who are now out of work because of virtue-signaling idiots.
But you're just
who think that everything has to be rewritten to be inclusive,
as a cheap
when in
shot.
fact it's not inclusive at all.
No, you're using Dylan as a cheap shot to attack a wokie.
I don't think Dylan feels I'm using him as a cheap shot. And what I would say about the wokie thing is this. I have spent the last year listening to people tell me only gay actors should play gay parts. Only Welsh actors, so Michael Sheen, should play Welsh characters. And so on and so on and so on. But the moment we have dwarf roles, which are the most famous dwarf roles in Hollywood history, then the only people apparently who can't play them are dwarf actors.
I guarantee if you had a gay role, James Barr would be saying, yeah, a gay guy needs to play. Yeah, 100%, definitely. They're just hypocrites, and that's what the whole cult is based off, hypocrisy.
Dwarf,
and I see there,
it's a cartoon.
Woke hypocrisy.
It has not changed. It was a cartoon. Those weren't actually dwarfs in the movie. They were drawn. Okay, so firstly,
they were drawn as dwarfs.
No, that is.
But it's a story about dwarves.
Dwarfs.
Well, they shouldn't be called that. They should be called.
They shouldn't be called dwarves.
No, they should be called people with dwarfism.
They shouldn't be called.
What's wrong with being called dwarves?
Nothing, but that's not the correct
That's the story.
Dylan, apparently you're not allowed to call yourself. Apparently, Dylan, you're not allowed to call yourself dwarfs. Apparently.
I would love to hear, what should I call myself, sir?
I think you should call yourself whatever you feel comfortable with, but as a person...
He calls himself a dwarf.
That's
A
great.
dwarf.
Good for you. I'm happy.
So now, sir, let me pause that. So it shouldn't be called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It
Listen,
should just be
I
called
do not want to
Snow
get
White.
cancelled
So
because I
saying,
think your point of view is more important than mine right now. But what I'm annoyed about is Piers trying to take a cheap shot at someone that believes in society moving forward.
Yeah, I'm actually
because really,
I'm actually exposing the hypocrisy of the woke mentality of only gay people can play gay parts, only trans actors can play trans parts, and so on and so on and so on.
I think we want
right
to get
to the
to a
point,
place where
right to the
everyone can
point.
play
Snow
every
White and the
role.
Seven Dwarfs has to be cancelled because you're not allowed to have dwarf.
You
actors.
should be happy, Piers, because it means that now you can play your dream role of Grumpy.
I would love to play Grumpy. I loved all the dwarves in that movie. They were great. Let me ask
now
you
you're
guys.
being a hypocrite.
guys,
You'd love to play Grumpy, but
no,
you're
no,
taking
no,
a role
no.
away from a dwarf
The
actor.
issue at hand.
No, I would play a fully grown Grump quite happily.
By taking away a role from a
Let me ask you, Dylan, about the Hugh Grant playing an Oompa Loompa, because again, it seems to me... Oh, we've got a clip of him playing an Oompa Loompa. Let's have a look at this.
So you're the funny little man who's been following me.
I will have you know that I am a perfectly respectable size for an Oompa Loompa.
An Oompa what now?
Allow me to refresh your memory.
Oh, I don't think I want to hear that.
Too late. I started dancing now. Once we've started, we can't stop.
So you're the funny little man who's been following me.
Now, they use CGI there, Dylan, to...
I bet that cost production so much more money rather than just getting a dwarf actor.
to make him into an Oompa Loompa dwarf.
So now...
What do you feel about that?
Yes, sir. So now we're not only using CGI and spending extra money and funding for these movies when we could just cast dwarves in that role. Whether it be one dwarf or multiple, like they have been in the past. Now you're taking at least one role away or multiple roles away for Oompa Loompa characters. That's what they were in the past. And why, again, I go back to my stance on these roles in Hollywood in general are very hard for people of my community to get, besides the elf and the leprechaun and this and that. So why are they being taken from my community? That's my issue here.
Well, you know why? You know why, Dylan?
Stereotypes.
You know why? Because people like James here, they think it's progressive and inclusive. When in fact it's regressive.
Those are not my words,
it's regressive
Piers.
and exclusive.
Your words.
Piers,
Dylan?
Piers, I will agree with the mindset of it's not right. I don't know. James seems to be in partial agreement with me on the dwarf actors and the roles with that these should be. But I don't. On the other stuff, I can't speak on that. Obviously, I'm focused fully on the dwarf community really losing roles in these films.
Yeah, I think James started.
All right, we're going to leave it there, but you got the idea. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. And then again, these dwarf actors shouldn't have the roles taken away from them just because someone feels that they should be different actors or it's not fair or stereotypes or whatever. Just give the guys the jobs. Save production money. Boom. We don't have to have this conversation ever again. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next one.